I think the thing I've learned most is a better understanding of students' needs, what they require, how they learn best, and taking that understanding of students and being able to tailor a lesson to that.
I really appreciate the teaching practice experience, because I don't have much experience in classroom teaching, honestly. And I find it really helpful where you can actually put what you've learned in seminars, you know, the theory in teaching techniques into practice. And also, I think the tutor's feedback is really helpful. So every time when we did the evaluations and the self-reflection, it really helped you to consolidate and to look back on what you actually did during the class and consolidate, okay, next time I'm going to improve on this aspect next time.
How I actually deliver my lesson. So what I have planned on the paper usually won't go well. So I had to, there were a lot of ad hoc reactions and difficulties that I had to deal with. And I had to adjust different things according to the time and the students' levels. So these are the things that I found most challenging because I had no experience at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the second thing is I really enjoy the feedback section because I learned so much from the comments. The trainers told me what I should do, like how I should improve myself, and I really find it helpful. The first lesson, the comment from the trainer was that I was like pleading the students to work on the task. I was like, can you please do this? So after 6 lessons, I was like, you work with him together as a pair. So much more assertive, authoritative. And
more effective.
Okay.
I think probably the unknown language.
Really?
Yes.
Cool.
At school and university, lessons are structured in, I don't know, at least from my experience, in very particular ways. At school, it's very well structured. It's clearly defined what the roles are. The teacher is imparting information, and the students are taking it on. Maybe there's a little bit of variation between individual teachers. And at university, especially a more research led one, there's less of that. It's much freer, and you're unlikely to get a high level of interaction with the teacher. Then my experience with the unknown language lessons, I was introduced to an entirely different type of teaching where it's very little emphasis on the role of the teacher and more on the student finding new ways to interact with material and to experience learning as opposed to experience teaching, I would say. And so the methods used, which engaged a variety of different responses, some which I didn't think were particularly my learning preferences, but almost I didn't know that until they were trialed on me, that I realised there were different things that I responded better to. I think the use of realia, or just props in general, is something that I'd really like to emulate as much as possible. I mean, I'm not sure whether it's the same for all adult learners, but the fact of having something physical to play with and then use that as a reference point for the vocabulary you've just learned, I think it really it builds upon the meaning before form aspect of teaching language. That is something that I found really, really key during this course. So that physical element of seeing, touching, holding, adding the different senses to build up a concept, and then you can fully attach that word with meaning to it. I think that's something I'd really like to include in my own teaching.
Oh wow. And particularly for younger learners, or would you also consider that for older learners?
I think definitely there's a case for younger learners, but that doesn't necessarily preclude adult learners from having it as an advantage. I think a lot of adult learners probably, like I said with my experience of school and university, some of it was not so good teaching. If you can find a way to access the inner child who still maybe wants to learn, and it's a good way of teaching differently, then that could still help them in new ways that they didn't expect.
I still have to say TP. Purely because I'm the type of person who learned the most from trial and error. So having feedback was really important from different tutors and from different peers. And also to actually see, once I've planned my lesson, implementing is a completely different story. When I planned, it was all in my head. Oh, it's going to be like this and it's going to be like this. But then having real reaction from real people, that's really different. And it takes practice to actually just be in the mindset, oh, you have to respond quickly and think of ways to adapt to the learners. And I think I learned the most from that.
So your general capacity to plan has improved. So you've got a better general understanding of how people react when you're teaching.
Yeah. And also just knowing that there are different things that we need to pay attention to. For example, how much TTT and how you give instructions. I think I learned a lot from that, even though it's just a very tiny point. But I was able to implement it onto my own teaching back at my work very quickly, because I teach really young kids and their level is low, obviously. And now that I've realised, actually, you need to give really concise and precise instructions, and it really aided them in understanding what I want them to do. And that was a huge change. Maybe there are already things that I was kind of aware of, but after the course I feel more confident in certain things. And
because you've got those fundamentals of good teaching, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And you feel you've improved as a teacher?
I definitely have.
Yeah.
Genuinely, yeah.
If you are the teacher and as you've identified, you want to identify that they've understood something, how do you do that?
We set measurable and attainable goals or objectives beforehand, and then
you
measure the students' performance against their objectives to evaluate the success of it.
So one of your objectives might have been for students to be able to use the past simple to describe what they did on the weekend. And you'd be teaching that to an elementary group, and how would you know that they'd learned that?
By observing and listening to them, creating unique and personal sentences or stories using the target language.
So you've improved as a teacher, and you've identified that improvement is things like giving clear instructions, being very aware of the level of the student. Is there anything else that would contribute significantly to your improvement as a teacher?
I think I'm better with focusing the aim or the objectives of the lessons.
Okay.
And then better plan it. And I've also been incorporating more context setting.
I think this course is very it's very interactive between you and the student, as well as you and the tutor. And I think the tutor are very supportive as well, and they're ready for your question anytime, so you can WhatsApp them like middle in the night.
Especially Angie.
Yeah. So you can find them anytime, ask them any questions, and they'll provide you support. I think for teaching, learning how to teach, really experience is the most important thing. So you get a chance to really do something, really teach a class, really interact with your students, not until then you learn nothing. So I think this course really provides you the chance, so enough chances to really put your knowledge, put your theory into practice, and learn from those experiences. So I really appreciate this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that note, thank you.
Thank you. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah. See you next time.
When's the next time? I'm not really doing
Because on the course you had...
Yeah, I had a surgery on my yeah, just
okay.
got it cut. So I can't say his name now.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, who can?
What's the word? We measure the students. I'm doing terribly here.
No, yeah, it's true.
It's true.